All right, happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. We're doing stuff a little bit different this week. Kelly will be gone for a few minutes, and for now, it's just me, Holly, and Ray. Do you guys have anything you wanted to say?
Well, I'll say I don't have anything new really. I was interested to see how your seahorses are doing and if you have babies left and what you're doing with them.
So, I don't have any babies left from the first batch. I did get a second batch, though. I have 68 right now that are
Wow.
currently growing. They were born 2 days ago. So, and the advice that you gave me, I think it was 2 weeks ago, with upping the flow and putting the gutter guard in, that worked like magic. Like they're all hitched now. Um,
Sweet.
but yeah, they all did die from the first batch.
Well, don't feel bad. That happens to all of us pretty much.
Yeah, it was really quick. It was like a week they were doing well, and I
Mhm.
thought this is good. But then yeah, they died all in like the span of 3-4 days.
That's kind of how it went for me when I was raising mine. Like I'd always lose the most within the first week to 2 weeks. And then the ones that made it past that point, I'd have losses, but they'd be few and far between, not like a bunch at once like that. So hopefully this one goes better for you. Good luck.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
guys, I am here even though Sophie's running the show tonight, and I'm going to be visible very soon. But, Ray, I have a question for you because I know you're not going to be here very long. So, why do you think it takes new seahorse keepers? Like the two struggles that I've seen with myself and other new seahorse keepers is first of all, just getting the babies to live past a week or two. And then, of course, it's the weaning onto frozen food. But what do you think the key is to getting them to live past the first week or two?
Well, first of all, you have a double whammy. You have a new seahorse keeper and you have new seahorses. Okay. Um, First of all, the new seahorse keeper hasn't any experience there to know that something might be problematic. But the other thing is the new seahorses may not be producing viable fry yet. That doesn't always happen that way, but it can. I remember back a couple decades ago when I started my first batch, um, I actually lost 9 batches of reed eye before I finally succeeded. Um, when I got branched into erectus, by that time I had it down pretty good, so I didn't have a problem there. But when
So
I
would you
first,
say it's just giving the seahorse time to figure it out and then giving the keeper time to figure it out?
it's a combination of both quite often. Now it doesn't necessarily mean that because a lot of people start off and everything goes good. They see horses produce fry in their first time and they're successful, but that's not the norm. Um, Anybody that I've known, uh, basically most of them are here in Canada though, or they were here in Canada, and I can't think of anybody offhand. Yeah, one there was one fellow that he did succeed with fry right off the bat, but uh,
Yeah, that's not
the
not
seahorses that I sold him, I'd had for quite a while, so they were well conditioned and in good shape. And then he just followed around along with my advice when he got them. But the seahorses, I can't remember now. They're in the year or a little over a year range. Uh,
gotcha.
they're that age, and
Well,
they definitely, believe me, when I sold them to them, the sides were uh, bulging out on them because they were so healthy.
Well, that always helps. So that's what I want to hear. And Zen Ginger, nice to see you. I'm not even seen yet. I'm still trying to wake up from a nap. I'm gonna shut
So you
up.
got to make enough for everybody, then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you deliver to California?
How about
I,
the Canada?
I'm gonna shut up and let Sophie ask questions. And as you can see, Sophie, it's just about asking questions and getting people to talk, and that's it. And then just rambling on and on like I always do. But I wanted to say, do any of you have any thoughts, tips? Like we talked last week about how using peroxide on the Artemia is crucial, enriching the Artemia. Like, how do you get those fat, healthy seahorses that give you those fry? And then in Sophie's case, once you have fry from seahorses that look very healthy and they're on their second batch, what changes can she make? What should she watch for? Let's talk about that.
I'm curious, Sophie, do you actually notice any difference in the appearance of the first batch and the second batch? Would the second
Um,
batch be a different color? Would they be larger by just a minuscule amount?
I mean, I would say that like some of them do look a little bigger. But then also there are a few that I would say, I don't know if I just didn't notice it in the first batch. I also had very few of them. Some of them look a little more like clear, like see-through.
Yeah,
But then some of them look better than the other ones.
yeah. Well, even the clear ones, that's not a bad sign. But it's just,
And
and I don't know if I asked you before.
Wait.
It's clear-
Why is it not a bad sign if they're clear, Ray?
Well, because I raised all sorts of were clear. I'd have batches where there's dark ones and there's clear ones, and um, they would actually change. Some of the dark ones would go clear. Some of the clear ones, well, actually, most of the clear ones ended up going dark.
So do you think that's just part of their coloring, that they're developing their coloring? Is that?
I, yeah, I have no idea why it's like that.
Oh,
And to be honest with you, I guess I never even sat down to think about it. Why?
yeah. I'm
It's
just
just,
curious. I never thought about it either, but that's interesting.
I
uh,
would say
your parents' seahorses, are the sides on them flat, convex, or concave?
on the
On the parents, yeah, of the
on the
Yeah.
baby.
parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, how they look.
I don't know. I can't say they're like convex, but I think they're mostly like flat. They're
No,
like a little bit. They're not like thin by any means.
But they're not fat
Um,
either, so they're like more a
no.
flat shape.
Yeah.
well, if they're still straight like that and not, uh, yeah, convex, then you still got a way to go to get them healthier.
Yeah. Do you test anything
Now,
on getting them?
you're
I have
breaking up.
been doing everything you told me, but I just
I was
like,
going
Probably just a lot of feedings, I think. One way, because I'll have sometimes, I mean, my seahorses, like in one of my tanks, go through periods of time where they get skinnier and then I fatten them back up. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time. But basically, how I do it is I have to feed them like more times per day.
If you have straight-sided ones, it can be 3 or 4 months to get them convex.
Yeah, it takes a while.
And normally, if I had that situation, I would feed them more times. Um, and like I say, I'm still a believer in that 12 to 15 minutes at the most. Anything, feeding them anything longer than that is not doing them any good.
And I know we
okay.
talked about it repeatedly, but what do you mean, Ray? What do you mean only 15 minutes? What do you mean?
Well, 12 to 15 minutes by that time, they generally have eaten enough that they're going to start pushing through the food through the digestive tract. It may not be coming out right at that point, but it's going through the digestive tract so fast that it can't extract the nutrient from it. So that means it's not as healthy for them that way. And then on the second part, when they do start producing the feces are going to be out into the tank. And when they start to decay, they're going to release that nutrient into the tank. There goes your DO levels. And then comes your parasite and bacterial levels going up. Can't hear you.
Kelly, we can't
No,
hear you.
can't hear you.
Are you muted?
Talking to myself. I said, guys, I know I look extremely tired. That's because I am, because I just woke up from a nap. That's why we were late. Sorry. But I was going to say, I agree with everything you said, Ray. And, but it's interesting to me that, I mean, I know that conditioning the adults and getting them really healthy and getting them really fat is key. But I've had seahorses that were juveniles that gave me perfect little babies.
Yeah. Well, think about the human population.
Yeah.
How many people are exactly the same? Like you
None.
can't expect everybody to be robust and produce babies and at the same rate or at the same stage as others. First of all, not all women, for instance, reach that point where they can have babies at the same time. Well, the same thing can happen here. And the female may not be able to produce a viable egg, although they'll produce an egg, but it may not be viable, and then transfer it to the male, and the male can't fix what has already been a problem to begin with. So,
Right.
and
Yeah.
then the
And
female.
let's compare this to humans for real. How many men stop being adult babies by the time they're what, 50? No, I'm just kidding. And
Well, I'm 82 so far. I haven't reached there yet.
No, I'm just kidding. And I would say that bottom line is, I mean, Sophie has Fry.
Mm-hmm.
I do not. So Sophie's doing something right.
Well, even with what I say,
A
though,
lot of it has to do with the seahorses, I think. Like I had one that was having, back-to-back batches of fry, and nobody else has. And there's nothing really has changed other than he was, one of my first ones. So he actually lived in the worst conditions of any of my seahorses have.
Well, I think the key is just telling people that don't want Fry. Usually they won't jump in. Okay, Ray, bye.
and just before I go, even though I've been talking about this convex, I know for a fact that there are people that have had concave and straight-sided ones that do produce fry. It's
Yes.
just that the odds are further against it unless you have a highly conditioned one.
No, that's
Anyhow, have a good chat.
you.
All right, Ray. Thanks. Good luck with your appointment.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
That's actually exactly what I was going to say, is that there's different circumstances. You can't like say this is the norm, this is it. But if you want fry and you're not getting fry, the thing that I'm not doing with my seahorses because I'm too busy, that I should be doing with my seahorses, is either increasing feedings or giving them live feeds that are enriched, or different things to make maybe put the two that I think that are going to give me fry in a different tank and make it completely sterile and give them all the love, kind of thing. If you really want fry, there are ways to play with temperature, to play with lighting, to get them to give you fry. But if you're someone who doesn't want fry, then good, right? You're not getting fry. But and Sophie, and anytime I'm actually here, I'm a loudmouth. I'm always going to take over. I'm sorry. I wanted you to run the show. we'll keep trying, and we'll have shows where I'm not even here and that you're running it. And I know that it doesn't look like many people join while we're here, but a lot of people watch afterwards. And when we log on next week, I can show you how to look at that and see that, how many people looked last week and, what questions there were and stuff like that. But what else did you want to talk about, Sophie? Was there anything else you wanted to talk about? Like what's going on with you and your season? The
Well,
tank awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, this tank, it has always gone. My female is right there. It's always gone pretty well for me. Like, I started with almost no knowledge, and I started with my little canister filter and everything. And I have corals, and I have macroalgae, but it's gone pretty well for me. And I also have my mom who will feed it right at school.
Hang on, you're breaking up. What's going on? Is she
Yeah,
breaking
the
up?
volume's like this of you talking. That's weird.
Just don't move, Sophie. Don't move. Talk and don't move. Go ahead.
I'm lucky to have my mom that is because I have school 6 hours, so I'm lucky to have my mom who does feed them during the day. So that's an extra feeding that she does.
Oh, nice. Nice.
That's
Yeah,
cool that
my
you have her help
family
to do.
really likes the seahorses. They weren't too like I can't say they were that excited to have them, but they all really like them.
Yeah. And we're gonna play with your microphone when we talk too. I guess you're going in and out, but that's okay. That's okay.
I'm
So
curious if you're doing anything differently with this batch besides giving them their gutter guard and increasing the flow. Are you cleaning the brine shrimp now with peroxide before you feed, and you weren't before, or anything different about their care so far?
Um, there honestly hasn't been a lot. I have not gotten around to peroxide because I actually have to learn how to do that because I don't remember how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to go learn how to do that. I haven't had time, but I will go learn
Mm-hmm.
to actually do that. Um, honestly, I haven't been doing a lot different. The flow has helped a lot. They're a little more
Mm-hmm.
active, right? They're hitching, and it feels less like they're just like floating at the surface. Like they were still alive last time when they were floating at the surface. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that it wasn't. Yeah, that was not right.
and now they're hitching, and
They
like.
hitched from like the very first hour I put them in the jar. Like it was instant, basically.
And so, do you have your flow to where they're like kind of circling?
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't have it like crazy, but I have it. You can't see the bubbles at all. I don't know why you can't see them.
Mm-hmm.
In the video, but there are bubbles, and it keeps
Mm-hmm.
but not enough to like take them off the hitches. But they don't stay
Mm-hmm.
at the surface anymore.
And do
Mm-hmm.
you see them eating?
Yes, I have seen some of them eating.
Awesome. That's great.
That's always a good sign. I've seen when they'll hitch right away. I've noticed in my batches the ones that'll hitch right away the sooner usually end up being healthier than some of the ones that don't hitch right away. Like they end up like being bigger. Like you'll see certain ones like if this batch lasts and they start growing up, there'll be ones that stand out as being you'll think that one's gonna make it. It's the strongest.
So,
Like
so
my Sadie, she was always from the start. She was the biggest fry, the healthiest fry. She just stood out. So I would say probably like your ones that you saw, like hitching right away and that might look a little bigger or a little more like a seahorse than the other ones do are your strong ones.
well, that's what I was gonna say is Sophie, your assignment is for next week. Even though we're gonna have Jill Martin on, who's gonna talk about where you can purchase seahorses and what she's doing. Before we get to Jill, I want to see pictures, close-up pictures of the fry. so we can all judge them. And no, I'm kidding. But I'll see.
I have a few pictures on my phone, but I'm on my computer right now, so
I got
Yeah.
you. You can always send them to me, and you are gonna play with, figuring out this. Sorry, let me come back real quick. You and I can figure out playing with this restream and figuring out how you can do it and share stuff and etc. Because you can share it right from Facebook on restream.
Yeah,
But
what I do is I send pictures from my phone to Facebook and then share them from there or download to the computer from Facebook to save them
I
on my computer.
I keep looking at my own face and I'm like, seahorses. Oh my God, you look like shit. Okay, stop. All right. Anyways, Zen said her pizza's done. I could send you some, but I fear it would be fuzzy by the time it's delivered.
Yeah, probably
And
not a good idea.
yeah, I should be hearing that comment, right? That's how you do it, Sophie. Easy enough. Anyways, I look at your tank and it looks immaculate. I mean, it looks amazing. And you're doing it, and there goes the lights. They're going to bed. So, you're doing your fry in Ray's way, which isn't wrong. It's different than my way, but that's why I'm so interested to follow along and see how it goes, because there is no right way. There's so many different ways.
So, what did you do differently from Ray?
So first I used tanks, not, containers. And then I ended up switching to tubs. And that was just because of the flow factor, right? So when you have a tub, you can set up the flow exactly so that it's constantly going in this spinning motion around instead of up and down. And it just allows you to collect any uneaten food more easily. And also, the seahorses are like catching food flying by them. I mean, they get used to it, it's just a different method. I did have more success with tubs, but I don't think at this point you want 100 seahorses in your room that you have to figure out what to do with, right? So I think you're doing it the right way. Go slowly, figure it out, learn from your mistakes, learn how to do things the right way, learn what mistakes you're making, and then you only have a couple seahorses to either keep or sell, and then you'll have 15 to keep or sell, and then you'll have 50 to keep or sell, and then you'll look up cubs, and then you'll be a breeder. And that's going to be your life. You're welcome.
Yeah, mine I used to begin with my first batches, they weren't that big. I used at Walmart. They had these 2-gallon tanks that
Yeah.
were cylinders, and I just used those. And for the smaller batches, I didn't fill it as much. My The other thing I used, I had these great big fish bowls that I started with, but then I started using them for brine shrimp, and then that's when I got the little tank thing from Walmart. I want to say it was cheap. It was like $10 or something. It came with its own little filter, which I never used, and a light and everything, but I really liked that. They were cheaply made, but it worked well for the fry. And then my biggest batch of fry, the one that I got about 20 survivors out of that batch. That batch got raised in a 10-gallon fish tank.
Yeah.
And what I figured out was I got 2 10-gallon fish tanks and I'd switch them back and forth while one was disinfecting. I'd set up one, get the new salt water in it and everything, and then I'd scoop the baby seahorses out with a little cup and put them in their new clean tank, and then I'd empty the other one and take it to the bathtub and disinfect it, with a bleach solution and all that, and then store it till the next day or two. I want to say I was on about a 2-day switch out schedule. They'd get a whole new house
Yep.
every 2 days,
Well,
and
that's
switch them all over. Give them, okay, here's your gutter guard for this tank. Here's your and that way I kept everything sterile, and it wasn't that hard. And I do it when the food kind of got to be running out, because I'd feed twice a day. I'd add the baby brine shrimp. I'd add a bunch in the morning, and then a bunch in like afternoon, late afternoon. So on the days I was switching out their tanks, I do it like before the last meal of the day, so that their new tank would be full of food when they got in it too.
no, exactly. Hey, host, you don't get to go. You don't get to go black. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
But
says Kelly, who does that all the time.
Mark, thanks for joining the Seahorse Whisperer channel. You're awesome. What I was gonna say, Kelly's got it all figured out. No, Kelly does not have it all figured out for sure. Look at Kelly tonight. She couldn't even do it. Anyways, what I was gonna say is, yeah, no, there's different ways to do it. Holly just described how she did it. Sophie is doing it Ray's way. I did it with tanks, and then once I wanted to do better and have more seahorses survive, I ended up putting up the tubs. And Cheryl and Dan were big proponents of the tubs, because if you have two massive tubs, and the key to tubs is if they have a sump, right? So you've got all that excess volume. You've got a huge ass skimmer. You've got,
and they are big though. I have one. I got one. I never got to use it because that was when Sandy stopped having fry, and then I lost him not long after that. So I never got to use my tub, but it's in my yard. Frogs grow up in it. but but it's 18 gallon. It's a koi tub, right, for your showing koi, and it actually is big. It takes up a lot of space in the house, I noticed.
I was going to say, literally, when I say Seahorse fry tubs, I'm talking about a 55-gallon tank stand that I had two tubs that I secured upon the top, and then I did the plumbing down to a sump that was at least 40 gallons, and that's what I mean by tubs. It's not like a tub where they just spin. You've got the sump, you've got all the stuff working to make it work. And I will find pictures of that. I was just trying to find pictures. I have like literally 40,000 pictures yet. Not going to happen. So I will try to find them for next week. We can do all of that before we have Joe Martin on. And do we have, hey, Fish Fam Link, good to see you. We were talking about you last week, about how everyone needs to support all the YouTubers and all the people that are on Fish Fam Link. But what I was going to say is, since Sophie done ditched us, are there any... Oh, Sophie's still here. Okay, good. All right. So I get to play that game. You don't, Sophie. You have to be here present all the time, whereas I don't. I'm just kidding.
Hold on. I just have a few things to do.
No, you're good. Do what you got to do. I'm totally teasing. But do we want to talk about anything else, like new Seahorse keepers? Since then Ginger's like, y'all keep talking about fry, and I don't want fry. I think that to have a conversation about new Seahorse keeper setup, it has to be a specific episode. What do you think, Holly?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it's good to see somebody setting up. I think a video of the setup process, or like a few weeks. Okay, would you show us what you did this week, or it helps because we can talk about it, but until you're actually doing it, there's stuff you don't think about then you're like, oh, I should have asked this or this. And we might not think of it because, I'm at a point now where I just do stuff. I don't really think about what I'm doing to
Oh,
tell somebody else. I'm like, okay, how did I do that? Good question.
I, I
And
like.
now it's already done.
I'm announcing this for anybody who messages me. I get all these messages like, this, that, and the other, and I'm like, oh shit, Holly, how did we do this?
I
Because
have notes, and that's the thing is if somebody asks me, I have to look it up because I won't know off the top of my head like how much of a medication to use or how much peroxide to use or for how many, it became routine when I was doing it. But at this point, all my seahorses are getting old, so I don't do anything fancy with them anymore. I'm not enriching foods or hatching brine shrimp or sterilizing brine shrimp or
well,
you know
that's I
the
keep that.
daily care of the seahorses. I don't medicate them. I nobody's been in a hospital tank for a couple years now.
Yeah.
So I don't remember all the ways of doing all those things, but I do have the information on what to do because I
Which is
wrote it
what
all down, thank goodness.
you. I rely on you. But yeah, no, I mean that's exactly it. Like I want fry again. And hey, anybody out there who has fry, send them to me. But I'm just saying, my seahorses probably aren't giving them to me because they know, Mama, you are too busy to deal with.
You're too busy to take care of my
Yeah,
kids.
I can't
I'm
even
not
have
having
on Wednesday, right? So, yeah,
right now I'm watching I just enjoy watching their antics. And I have one right now, my seahorse Betty. I have four of them in this tank. These are four of the babies I raised, and they're now close to 5 years old. And she's kind of irritated because today a lot of their things went to the bleach bucket. And we're in a big storm right now, so nothing can go dry outside. So everything is taking longer than a day to dry. So her favorite hitch went to the bleach bucket and now it's missing. So she keeps like going over there to where it should be and throwing herself on the floor and having a tantrum because her favorite hitch is gone. And then
See, and this is why I love them. I love
she'll
them
go back to
because of
another one, yeah, and sit down and she'll look over there longingly. And then she goes there and lays on the floor as if it's gonna make her hitch come back.
I love their antics. They're really funny. And I think that a lot of like online, you hear a lot about how they're not friendly, they won't come out, they're really slow swimmers.
Uh-huh.
But see, that's what I was kind of preparing myself for before I got
Uh-huh.
them. It's like these are actually so friendly and they
They
interact.
have, yeah,
Like
they have such personality and they're all different. They'll have different personalities.
so you should talk a little bit more about that, Sophie. Just the fact that when you were doing research, because you are, trying to take care of them the best that you can, but when you came across research, it was telling you low flow, they're going to be moody and hidey. Like, talk about that a little bit more about what you read and then now what you're seeing.
I think I found really old sources, a lot of them were about like ones that were caught from the wild. I
Gotcha.
think
Mhm.
that changes it a lot because then they're not my seahorses, for example, are bred like they've a lot of generations like captive bred.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was really hard to find information online, and the information I did find was like, and the stores as well. Those people were like terrible what they said. They were like, oh, they'll live less than 2 years. They're very slow swimmers. Like I went to a fish store, and the guy there was like, so I heard that they're, because he considered getting them. He made a tank as well, and he was like, well, I considered getting seahorses, but they're all slow swimmers, right? And I was like, no, they're actually always like, mine are always up on the glass, and like they're out waiting for me to come, mostly for food. Uh,
Mhm.
but yeah,
Right.
they have a big personality.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, and everything you said makes sense because people are still looking at the old information and not realizing that if they just come to this damn channel, they'll get the good information. No,
Yeah.
man, I
Yeah.
literally forgot to turn. So in the 40-gallon all-in-one, it doesn't have any of the high tech where I can press a button and it turns off and on, right? So I've got to unplug things because
I have one like
it's
that too.
it's just my preference. I prefer to feed them where the food goes one place, they can catch it while it's falling, and they eat it off the ground because that makes it easier for cleanup. All right.
Yes.
Each their own. I love broadcast feeding. That's what I usually do in larger tanks. But in the smaller tank, that's just how I do it. So I forgot to turn the flow back on one day. But the only thing that was left on was the internal, it's not a power head. It's like a power head with it's in an internal filter, right? It had
Yeah,
state.
like our quick
Quick
filters.
filter.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I had left on, and I hadn't turned on the flow from the back or the return or whatever.
Oops.
And so I literally woke up and I was like, oh shit, and I go turn on the light. They're both literally sitting with their heads in the flow, going blah, 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 blah. I mean,
Yeah.
wanted to be in the flow. They
Yeah.
love it's so wrong if anybody thinks that seahorses want low flow. It's crazy. I mean,
Sadie gets disappointed. Sometimes I'll forget to turn the airlines back on for the bubblers
yeah.
because she likes those. She likes to sit like she's taking a shower sometimes.
Well,
And
yeah.
once in a while after I feed them, because I turn them off, and I turn the switch on the airlines to turn them off. And now and then after feeding, I forget to switch them back on. So the tank's going, it's not just the bubblers aren't turned on. So she can't sit in her bubbles. And sometimes they'll be off like all night. And I swear
She's
she tries to let me know. She'll give me the eye when like, Mom, the bubbles weren't going last night, or they have funny ways, especially the longer you've had them, the ways they communicate with you. Now, Dandy is old now. Now that he's had his birthday, he's over 6 years old, and I can tell he's slower. And I mean, he's always had his problems with motor skills. Yeah, no, he's always been handicapped. But now he's just slowing down. And when the time changed, he had a hard time adjusting to the new breakfast time. And the
oh,
second morning, it was so funny. I even posted a picture of him, and one of my friends was worried about him because he's laying down, like literally laying down with his head in his dish. But he was asleep with his head in the dish, and I got the things going, in the lights are on, breakfast is served, and he didn't get up. And I'm like, uh-oh, am I finally going to lose him? Is he ready to go now? But no, about the time breakfast time's over, yeah, because my seahorses, I give them a half an hour to eat. I don't follow Ray's recommendation of the 12 minutes because mine don't eat that fast anymore. When they were younger, they did, but it takes them a while. And Dandy
but wait,
finally
wait,
started
wait, wait,
eating
wait.
about the
Time
time I was ready to clean up.
out, though. We want to be clear for anyone watching. Ray is technically correct, right? I've given
Yeah.
older seahorses longer to eat also. But if you have newer seahorses, what you want to care about
And
is
they're excited to go. They're ready to eat when you feed them.
so the 12-minute rule is a very good rule. I agree with Ray. It's just once you've had seahorses for 5 years, then you know them, you know they're
They
happy.
might not start eating till the 12 minutes if they're dandy, like, so yeah. So now the days have gone by, since the time change. And so this morning when I turned on the lights, he was sitting upright at his dish, ready to eat. But it took him a few days to come around and get adjusted to the change.
Yep.
And he doesn't, he, he doesn't always come to food. Like he'll hitch nearby where I feed him. He has his little dishes where I feed him, one on each side of the tank. And so I just feed him wherever he is. He'll go from one spot to another. Sometimes it takes him a couple days now before he decides he wants to move to the other side of the tank. He'll sit in one place for a long time. But a lot of times he'll be facing the wrong way. Like
Mhm.
he'll be hitched with his back to his dish. And I put the food in the dish. I'm like, okay, Dandy, time to eat. Your food's here. But he's so lazy now that he just won't eat
It's your
unless I turn him around and put his face in the dish and then he starts eating.
it's your fault. You
But
gave
he'll miss
so
meals
so
altogether unless I put his face in the food now.
so Sophie, you've never experienced anything like this, have you?
No.
No. No. It's not his fault. Babies are
I
spoiled.
have two very greedy seahorses.
Yes.
They are very excited to eat, especially Dot. She is so excited. Every time I even come by the tank,
Yeah.
she's up against the glass waiting.
Yep.
So feed me now. My Sadie is like that. And then she'll come and eat Dandy's food. She'll come. She's like, okay, you're not eating. I'll come and eat yours. And
Yes.
she's a big fat seahorse, but she's always been my big eater. And it's like I said, even when she was a fry, she was always my biggest fry, the biggest, greediest fry in the tank.
Yeah. I
Eat
mean,
all the food.
yourself. But I was gonna say, that's oh God, you just made me forget what I was gonna say. Damn it, Holly. I was trying to say something. But no, I don't know what I was gonna say. But yeah, that's what Dan used to say is you walk by the tank and they're literally coming up to greet you because if you have a peanut butter sandwich in your hand, they want to bite. I have pictures of these seahorses just rushing the front of the tank. And that's the difference between like anybody who's like, oh, I'm keeping a reef tank and the fish are cool. Seahorses sound so difficult, but you don't understand the reward. Like they are like dogs. They're
like little dogs in a tank, really.
They come up to you the second you go. I have a video of my daughter. Go watch Seahorse Whisperer Jr., right? She literally walks up to the tank and they're all like, woo! And it is for food. It's not because they love her. It's because they want food. But it's just so cool. And so, it was a great experience. My girls turned 18 and moved out. I'm very sad. But I'm not. I'm so glad they're gone. But anyways, point being, I have videos of them multiple videos of them working with the seahorses and learning from the seahorses. And they're just such cool creatures. Like anybody who has any doubts about setting up a seahorse tank is crazy. I won't have a house without a
and the dance they do, they'll do, especially Sadie. Not all my seahorses dance for food, but I've had certain females, especially, that will do a whole exotic dance for you at feeding time. They get so excited, they'll do a dance about it.
Does Dot do that, Sophie?
She does. Yeah.
The
I would
food
say that
dance. Oh
Fitz,
God.
for example, he waits a little bit until he's
Oh,
sure that there's a reason to move. And there's because he doesn't like to move around a lot. He's more static.
well,
That's
get
dandy. A
pregnant.
lot of my males have been like that. Like the females I've found tend to be more active and than the males in my experience and will interact with you more. But Dandy, he just has the sweetest personality. But yeah, he's mellow, especially now that he's gotten older. And I think it's been too because he's always had trouble moving around. You know,
Right.
he has some kind of neurological problem that he's had pretty much his whole life. So he developed in other ways.
Yeah.
You know, he's a really sweet seahorse, but yeah, he has trouble swimming, so he doesn't swim much. You know, Sadie's a swimmer. You know, she swims all over the place. She does dances by herself. She dances for food, for attention. And then
Yeah.
I have other seahorses, like the seahorses in this tank in here. I have one female that moves all over the place. She's here, she's there, she goes different places. The other females will find a place and sit down and stay there for quite a while and then they go somewhere else. And the one male in the tank just kind of rotates between all the females. He like goes and spends time with all of them.
Yep.
Yeah, they've all got their own little ways. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that Fitz also I think he's just gonna be in this endless loop of being pregnant because he gave birth the one day and
Hmm.
like an hour later they were already trying to put more eggs in. I
Yep.
tried to catch it on camera, but they
It's hard.
they tried for like 20 times and then at one point I just left because I was like I have other things to do today.
Yeah, it's hard to catch
When
that. But I remember Sandy giving birth and chasing the female with babies flying out of his pouch and he's trying to mate with her at the same time and do the egg exchange and she was offended. Yeah, at first she was interested. She comes over, she's like, oh, you want to dance? And here these fry come flying out of his pouch and she turned around and hightailed it in the other direction. She's like, don't touch me until you get rid of those things.
that's funny. Well, yeah,
So fun.
but it is. I mean, that's their purpose, right? So they're gonna keep doing
Mhm.
it, and that is also a reason why the males get run down is they're constantly carrying fry.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
just taking care of them is really important. But Sophie, this is your show tonight. So what else do we got to talk about? We've got Jill coming next week. We can start doing topics if you want to focus in on topics. But I'm going to shut up and let you go.
I don't know. I don't have that many questions generally.
Well, no, you're supposed
I
to, if you have any questions from the audience too. But I don't see any, so you're
uh
good. I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm just giving.
Bonnie
yeah.
just got here. She said, so hi, Bonnie.
Hi, Bonnie. No problem. And you guys, do you have any questions that you want us to discuss? Because as we gradually move into this older Seahorse Whisperer, younger Seahorse Whisperer, she's going to need some help with you guys asking questions so that she has something to talk about. So you don't need to do it tonight. We've already been going. It's already late. Got to work tomorrow. So, but in the future, if you ever see that the show is kind of like stalling, ask a question to help us get on track and have something to talk about is the point. But I can always come up with shit to talk about. I could ramble on all night.
Kelly's a talker.
I could ramble on all night. Sophie, you just got to get better at it. I got a tetanus shot today too, so every time I raise my arm, I'm like, ow.
Oh, now you're sore.
Yeah. But anyways, I had a comment about the Seahorse conversation and I've lost it. But just to update you guys, my Seahorses are freaking swell, not giving me fry.
Mm-hmm.
They're just chilling, which is okay. I mean,
Here,
that's what Zen Ginger wants, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You just want
They're
to
doing their thing.
live their life.
Yeah,
Do the pretty.
but I feel like Zen will be the one to get a lot of fry because he doesn't want him.
She'll get all females, and then one will turn into a boy.
Listen, send them all to me. I'll pay the shipping. Come on, send them all to me. I'll take care of them. I'll figure it out. I'll put the girls to work. Don't be scared. You got to do it now. You have been talking about this for so long. You have to do it. And
I
then
feel like Zen knows a lot more than a lot of like actual seahorse keepers do.
Right? Yeah.
exactly. And she's gonna do excellent. You know what? She's gonna end up. She sits here and says, "I don't want fry. You know, whatever. I want to take my time." She's gonna end up our next serious commercial break. That you and her. So,
Yeah.
but either way,
Yeah. Well, I convinced my parents to let me get seahorses because I was like, absolutely, I'm not gonna breed. I'm not. And then I met Ray, and I was like, he's so bad, right? Yeah. And that's
You're
how I
so lucky
slowly
you
convinced
have
my
him.
parents to let me do that.
You're so lucky you have him right down the street. I wish I had Ray right down the street because I'll tell you what, I would have had him over so many times just to help me figure out my equipment
yeah.
and how to get stuff to work well and how to plumb and all that kind of stuff
Well,
because
that's
he's
your
really
next.
good at that kind of thing.
Well, and that's your next step, Sophie. Is when you start becoming successful with the fry, what are you going to do with them?
Yeah. I had a store. Okay, this was a long time ago because before I had met any of you guys or Ray or anyone, I was a little delusional of I would get fry right away and then they would grow up really fast and I would be able to give them to the store. And I told the store I would have them in like September, October.
Yeah.
When I did there's a store in Toronto. It's called Candy Corals, but they said that they would take them from me because they do have seahorses, and they said they'd take them, and yeah, they would actually give me money
You
for
better,
them.
girl. You better be
Mhm.
selling them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'd buy them.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure you weren't like giving them away. No. Too much work. But
So much money on them. I just bought a bucket of salt, and that was crazy.
yes.
The amount of money.
Well, and the thing you're going to realize is, again, anyone new watching this, keeping seahorses is cake, right? It's so easy. You can keep seahorses. You can have a tank. Zen Ginger is going to have it easy peasy. Don't be scared. But once you get into fry, then that's when it gets difficult, in my opinion. And
Well, labor intensive is mainly because all the cleaning and sanitizing and feeding and yeah, hatching the brine shrimp and cleaning the brine shrimp and sanitizing the equipment and
yes.
transitioning them from the live to the frozen, and there's just a lot to it.
What I was going to say is, once, Sophie, you get to that point where you've gotten over the hump of keeping them alive in the first 4 weeks, because that's the first hump and everybody goes through it. But once you get over that hump, then you're going to go through weaning them onto frozen foods. And that's a hump that you have to cross. And then you figure it out, and all of a sudden they're all surviving. And then
you're like, now how do I get rid of them? Then you have trouble finding people to buy them.
So what I was going to say is, the problem is you get them onto frozen foods, then you have to do more maintenance on the tank, or
Then they grow fast.
hang on, time out. Or they have to be put in a bigger tank,
Yeah.
or there's all these options that you can do. But basically, you have from the time that they get weaned onto frozen food, you have a couple months before you can sell them, right? Because you should
So
not.
they're big and they're eating a lot and taking up
There's
space.
also a store in London that they have like a lot of like special fish, and they just got their saltwater part of it, and they said they'd have seahorses. I'm gonna try to convince them. I need to talk to them. I need to email them, and try to convince them to take them from me.
There you go.
Um,
Go.
Mhm.
That's it. Okay, we do have a couple.
and Bonnie, I got my seahorses from Cultured by Science. It's a business by this guy. He lives in like Guelph. It's like an online store, or you can like. You don't live in Canada, I don't think. So that wouldn't be an option to pick them up. I don't know how far he ships them, but yeah. And he's had those seahorses. Like he's had them for a very long time, like a lot of generations.
Well, if you're looking for seahorses, guys, don't forget we're having Jill Martin on next week. Let's talk to her and see what she's got going on. But Bonnie also asked, what actually causes the ciliates to grow in the tank? How do you avoid getting them? First thing I'll say is they're ever present. You can't avoid getting them.
Yeah.
The ideal is to minimize how many are in the tank so that they don't irritate the seahorses. Go ahead, Holly. What were you going to say?
I think if there's more food for them in the tank, like uneaten food, like high organics, that kind of thing, can cause their populations to rise. Like Kelly said, they're always there. Water changes. I think you get rid of them when you change water. But then they'll come back. So I think to keep populations down, do your water changes. I've always had trouble with ciliates. I know Sadie's got ciliates, but I've never gotten rid of ciliates altogether. They're always there. They're always the seahorses, though. When they're big, when they're adults, they can live with them for the most part. They might. I think of it as fleas, like fleas on dogs.
Yep.
But if they're not too out of control, the seahorses are fine with them, but they are harmful to the fry.
Yep.
And that's where the peroxide comes in.
I was going to ask Sophie, have you seen this batch of fry itching, scratching, using their tails?
Honestly, yes, a little bit. I forgot about that, but I don't know because it's kind of, I'm trying to figure out like wiggling because that's kind of all they do, or if it's actually them like scratching because they do a lot of like, especially as they're flowing through the water, they kind of their tail just kind of goes everywhere until they can get onto the like.
Sophie,
card.
time out. So I can tell when you go like this, your voice cuts out. Stay like this. I don't know why, but okay, go ahead.
So can you repeat
that? No, you don't have to repeat it, and you're still cutting out. Move this way.
Yeah.
Other way. There you go. Other way. That way.
This way?
Yeah, you sound better when you're there.
Yes.
You see, it shouldn't be like that because I'm using my headphones because I don't think this computer. Hold on, let me try disconnecting my headphones, but I don't think this computer has.
Well, don't worry for tonight. We got through tonight. We'll
And you
practice.
sound good now. As long as you're leaning towards the middle like you are right now, can hear
Yes.
you better.
And all I
Oh,
was going to say is, go on. That's what I was going to say is go on.
I don't really have anything. That was basically it.
Well, with them scratching, I want number one, when they're doing their jiggle or wiggle or scratching, you get a video so that you can bring it and we can show it and we can talk about it. Because you're not wrong. We're just trying to figure out what's going on. And we're going to make you successful. And if it ends up that you need to use a formalin treatment, which we've talked about before, where Ray doesn't do it, but me and Holly absolutely do it, maybe you try that and maybe you end up really successful because of it. This is how community works, is we, pull all our resources together, we talk about everything, and we work together to find and figure out how everyone can be successful. So there's no shame in the game, guys. Like, when I ask you guys to, anybody, not just Sophie, but to, share your videos or come on, it's not because we want to like pick you apart. It's because there's so many different ways to do things, and us all working together can help other people, is the bottom line. So,
And I would say you can usually tell when they're actually scratching. It's pretty obvious. It'll look just like, you'll look at them, and the first thing you'll think is, that's just like my dog scratching behind
yeah,
his ear with his back leg. It's totally that motion. And they do it with their tail right behind their head, like where their gills are. And they'll go swipe, swipe, swipe on themselves. So you can tell that they're not just squirming, they're actually scratching. So they're probably just all wiggly and swimmy because, yeah, and their tails too. I always thought it was cute the way they'd swim sometimes with their tail like totally curled up so that it looked like they had no tail.
yeah,
Sometimes they
yeah.
just shooting through the water with no tail.
And
But when they're scratching, you'll see it and you'll think, "Oh, that's scratching."
but this is good, a great thing, because Sophie's not doing anything wrong. She's doing everything.
Mhm.
But if we can help her do things better to achieve her
Mhm.
goal, that's what we want to do. And I would say, that like the container thing always worked for Ray. It never worked for me. So we'll see where it goes, right? Maybe adding the peroxide to the feed, or the formalin to the system. We'll see. We'll work on different things. And I love it because as you go through this process, you're not rushing and doing everything at once. You're going to do one thing at a time and see if it makes a difference. And that's the way to do it. Everybody always gets online, gets all this advice, and they're like, okay, I'm going to change this, 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 and this. And then how do you know what worked, right? I mean, you got to slow
Yeah.
it down,
I'll
understand learning. Yeah.
I'll say probably the biggest game changer for me was the peroxide.
Yeah. I
It
agree.
really did get my survival rates up like immediately.
So I'm saying that we do have Jill Martin next week for sure. I'm going to get her pictures and put up some ads. But let's make the week after that a week about the peroxide. And then I
Mhm.
know people like Zen Ginger just want us to do a newcomer video. Zen, you got to come in. You got to be the guest. That's the key. No, I'm just kidding.
I
But
thought you were going to say you got to be the guinea pig.
yeah, no, you are the guinea pig too. I'm just saying we need you to, we need your list of questions, even if you don't want to actually be here. Make a list of questions that we can go through, because I could say, let's talk about setting up a new tank all day long, but I'm going to miss some stuff that you want to know because, like Holly said, we've done it for so long that it just gets to the point where it's like, oh, I forgot to say that part because that's common sense to me, but it's not really common
Oh, yeah,
sense.
I did that
Yeah.
too.
Oh shit. Yeah, you got to make sure you get the need food. Yeah. Anyways, I do think for tonight, though, guys, it's 9:44. I'm exhausted. I'm so sorry. But actually, Sophie, are you thinking we should end it for tonight? Should you end it? Sophie's the
Yes.
Whisperer Junior. She's taking the show. All right. All
I
right.
do see Bonnie has another question, though,
Okay.
real quick. We
What's the
should
other
probably
question?
get to.
What is it?
She has a question about formalin. She says, should you treat with formalin when you get the seahorses? And I have a question about, are you talking about when you get adult seahorses when
That,
you first get them, or the fry?
that
Is
she
that
means adults. What do you think, Holly?
no? I would not treat adult seahorses at all when I first get them unless they show signs that something is wrong.
Agree.
And
100%.
then you diagnose what is wrong, figure out what it is, whether it's a bacterial infection or they're dealing with ciliates or parasites. Figure out what is wrong first and then treat accordingly. Um, honestly, yeah, I had no problems with any of the seahorses when I first got them from a reputable breeder. It anything that they had down the road wrong with them was due to conditions in their tank.
Right. And
Yeah.
I agree with everything Holly said. And I'm sorry, guys, that if you jump in late, um, like I'm never late. No judgment, but I'm just saying, if you jump in late and you don't know what we're talking about, go back and watch the whole episode, because tonight we're again talking about fry. We're gonna go back to new tank setup and all that stuff. But bottom line is, we're talking about fry when we're talking about formalin. I don't use formalin on adults unless I have to, just like Holly said.
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting them from a reputable breeder, you should not need to do anything like that, and only treat if they need it. I totally agree with Holly. Good point, Holly. Absolutely good points. Whereas with Fry, we'll have that conversation in another episode, talking about, we've done it before, but we'll do it again and talk about why formalin's used on Fry. Because maybe Sophie might need
Yeah.
that information. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And you could be like me, where you've got a ciliate problem in your tank, and then they have fry. So the fry are going to have ciliates because they were in that water the with the parents. So yeah.
So Bonnie said someone in YouTube had big die off of fry, so the same seahorse had another batch. She cleaned the green, but they were scratching right away. So I don't know what you mean by clean the green. If the tank is covered in green, that's
That's food for ciliates.
yes.
I have that, like, I know I have ciliate issues now and then, but my seahorses are old enough to deal with it.
Yes.
They're
It's like Holly said, is like fleas for a dog, so they can deal with them, especially if they're older and they're used to them.
Mm-hmm.
But the fry can't.
The
deal
fry
with
are
them.
too
So
tiny. Yeah.
fry, we want to treat with formalin.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a circumstance where the adults are having problems and scratching, then we got to treat for sure. But definitely it comes from the tank not being clean.
She cleaned the tank.
I shouldn't say it like
Is she saying it's wrong word?
I shouldn't say from the tank not being clean, because I get it. Somebody's cleaning the tank and they're like, I'm cleaning it. I've been
Still
there.
have.
Where I'm like, I'm get out of this tank, and it's always right back. It's the organics.
Yeah.
Either you have too many seahorses in too small a tank, or you don't have enough filtration, or you don't have an adequate skimmer, or you're not, something
Food gets
is not
stuck
jiving.
in a rock crevice, and the ciliates are feeding off of that. And I mean, that's what happens to me. I swear, like every time I clean up uneaten food, like an hour later, there's a pile of food sitting where the flow guided it out from under wherever it was finally, and there it is sitting there. And I'm like, dang it, I just siphoned that tank.
Well,
So
and
yeah.
one of the keys to dealing with that is having high flow,
Mhm.
right, in the tank. If you adjust your flow to where there's nowhere that food can hide,
Mhm.
and or having a cleanup crew, but as Ray always says, your cleanup crew eats,
Yeah.
but they always poop it.
Yeah.
And so it's just still in the tank, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, ciliates are a difficult thing because you're never going to have a tank without them.
Mhm.
But
You
you
can
can,
control the population, let's say that, maybe.
yeah, good. All right, I can't do anymore. Sophie, you call it. Tell us Happy Wine Wednesday.
All right. Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone.
Cheers.
We'll see you
Let's-
next week. You got to get a glass, Sophie.
I
You
don't
have
have
to do
a
the cheers.
glass.
You got to find
Hey, mine's just
bugs.
water.
No. Yeah, it can be water. All right. We'll see you guys next week. We'll talk to you.